take off.
It's time for GBTA Convention 2022 in San Diego. I'm ready, our GBTA team is ready, and I hope you are too. We're looking forward to reconnecting, reimagining, and recreating the future of this great business travel industry. Let's get started.
Please welcome the president of GBTA, Denise Trousseau, and the CEO of GBTA, Suzanne Neufung.
Wow. Hello. Look at this. Awesome. Welcome, members, friends, and partners of GBTA. We are so excited to be here again together, back for this premier event, the industry's largest gathering of global business travel industry in our association. And we'd also like to welcome those who are here watching us from around the world via Convention Plus live streaming.
So even though it's only been actually less than 9 months since we were in Orlando for Convention 2021, how many of you were at Convention 2021? Woo! Thank you. Change continues at a super dynamic pace. And with amazing San Diego as our backdrop, I think it's a character in our movie this week. We're finally arrived at our destination for Convention 2022. So, Denise, do you think we could call today Sunday Fun Day?
I've had the Sunday Fun Day. Who else has had some Sunday Fun Day so far? If you're a global travel or sustainability professional and you're here, you already know what we can pack into a Sunday. Are you ready to reconnect, reimagine, and recreate?
All right, so speaking of reimagining, recreating, how do you like the new setup this year? Is it okay? All right. Certainly what we know from my team, we've been reimagining, recreating lots of stuff in the last 18 months, and convention sometimes needs to be reimagined as well, so that's what you see here. And if any of you have had 360s in your day jobs, 360 reviews, you've had feedback from your friends and your family, it feels like, this is our 360 views so that we can come up close and personal to you this year. So what we also know is that, blah, 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 keep going on the there we go. See, you get to see what I'm supposed to say, so you know when I'm ad-libbing. So what we also know is, keep going. All right. So what we have here today, not necessarily right now, but by tomorrow, we're going to have 4,500 people here. That's an amazing number. Of which 1,000 are buyers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you represent, of those 1,000 buyers, 550 different companies. So we know we're back, and we know we have an incredibly interesting and packed few days here for you, so I hope you have good shoes. That's the only thing that matters here, good shoes. Denise.
And as you know, GBTA regularly wants to hear from you, our members, to engage with you. Throughout the convention, we're going to make this easier for you, posing some live questions here on main stage. We're going to make it easy for everyone to participate in the convention via our mobile app.
So, get your phones out, all right? And you won't make it if you haven't downloaded the app, but if you've downloaded the app, I will give you the clue how to do it. Open up the GBTA 2022 event app. It looks like Cvent on your mobile phone. And what you do is right on the home screen, it says Happening Now, Main Stage, Reconnect, Reimagine, Recreate. Just tap that, And at the bottom of the very short page, it says polls. Tap that, and we get to our very first question today, which is, how many GBTA conventions have you previously attended? A, first-timers. B is 2 to 5 years. C is 6 to 10 years. D, 11 to 19. And E, 20 or more. So please fill that out. You don't have to lie. We don't know your age. It's okay. So
And we know there's 1,000 first-timers here. Let's see who can compete with those first-timers, because we know there's 1,000 of them here.
Exactly. And we also know that GBTA turns 54 years old this year. And we have always been that place where people have come together and seen old friends. And we also know that this becomes like summer camp for us. But we also know that it's an important place to make new friends and colleagues and the people that we'll meet in coming years. So as we are tabulating results, all right, look at those first-timers. Amazing. Wow, well done. And we have a whopping 6% who have been here 20 or more times. That is also amazing. All right.
So interesting, Suzanne, that we have a great mix of attendees here this year. We'd like to give a shout out to our most loyal GBTA attendees. So those of you who have been here for 20 or more conventions, I'm going to ask that you please stand. You've been on this journey with us, serving the industry. Come on, stand. There was 6%, I think. Come on, 6%.
Woo-hoo!
Get on up. You guys can stay standing. So stay standing. We're not done. But for those of you in this camp, you have a special icon on your badge. So if you look at your badge, there should be a little icon that represents that you've been here for 20 years. And we wanted to recognize you for your contributions to GBTA in the industry.
And we know someone asked me, why don't we have a 30 plus? And I said, you might be the only one. So if you see Phil Crofton out there, please thank him for being here 30 times. All right. So that's loyalty. Now we'd also like to extend a warm welcome to those 37% who said you're first-timers here. So if you are one of those, please stand and stay standing. Wow.
No, stay standing.
Stay standing, because we have a little bit of a game here. So no, we won't make you talk on stage. But we do know that now we know who you are, and it's all of our job, who's been here at least twice, to make you feel a warm welcome and to say hello and make sure you know the ropes here.
That's right, Suzanne. And even as we've been here on Sunday for the official kickoff, we've already been a productive weekend for most of us. How many of you were there today for the 5K run walk? In my case, it was the walk, but please stand. 5K, I think there was about 200 of us out there this morning. 6:30 this morning. I was there too. Exciting. What a great way to start a convention. But it also serves a great cause. Sponsored by American Airlines, donations will benefit Cool Effect, a nonprofit dedicated to helping people and organizations reduce and offset their carbon emissions.
All right, so actually we want the runners and walkers to keep standing. I know you want to sit all week, but you're going to be sitting all week. So keep standing.
20 plus.
And now
first-timers and runners, stand back up.
And please stand if you were at the Win It Summit today, which was a great event all about women leadership. So we want you to stand as well. All right, more people. All right, so, and the next one.
Yeah, so Suzanne and I are standing, so if we've called, it's, again, reminder, runners, walkers, Win It, 20 plus years, first timers, you should all be standing. I know some of you have sat back down, but Suzanne and I can stand up here. You guys can stand with us. Come on.
All right. So we know that this is, of course, where we mentor professional women and leadership in the way that we get this industry moving forward.
Okay, we're not done. So who is on site today setting up their booths, getting ready for tomorrow's big expo opening. If you were out there setting up your booth and getting ready, stand, please.
It's got to be half the room. All right, here we go.
We're getting there.
All right, and now I want to know how many who are still seated made your way through the GBTA's first ever Sustainability Pavilion. If you were there, please stand, join the standing group in this room. I'm going to find out why you guys are sitting still, but just a minute.
You might just want to stand and get this over, guys. So. And last but not least, please stand if you're a travel buyer who took advantage of attending today's part 1 of our industry peer-to-peer sessions. Don't forget, session 2 takes place on Wednesday, but you can all please stand.
All right, more buyers. All right, now I think I know what's going to get the rest of you to stand. And if you have 2 women on stage, you got to ask, if you're seated, you got to stand if you bought at least 1 new article of clothing for this event this year. And socks count. All right, there we go. Honesty.
And we're going to add not even just a woman that bought something new to attend this convention. I know some guys out there, come on, let's be honest, that also bought something new for this year's convention. Okay, a couple more standing? No? Okay, you guys are tough right there. You're really, really tough. But we're going to be done with it. So everyone can sit down now.
All right.
I think. I don't know.
So we know that that was a lot going on today, the week, the build up to get here, and we know that everybody's building content that is so important for what we're doing here. We do have a strong and relevant lineup. We know that as well. And based on all of the feedback we get, we also know that it's time to do some new experiments. So you will see some new experiments around learning, the formats that we have, and some other things like the stage. And we're thrilled to bring you in that content lineup 85 education sessions, that's amazing, with 300 subject matter experts that are going to present that content to you and ask for your input and your contribution and collaboration to that. Of course, we also have Expos time, that's really important, that starts tomorrow across the 3 days, and you'll have opportunities to meet new people, do business around every possible corner.
And of course, along the way, there's always going to be time to reconnect. There's time to catch up, because there's been a while since we've seen each other last. So let's have some fun while we're here together. It feels good to be back in person, doesn't it? Come on. Great. And it's so great to see so many colleagues and friends in the industry, along with those that I'm meeting for the first time. So thank you all for being here.
So we have time for another quick poll, so get your phones out again. Now you know how to do it. All right, so the question should be there. You might have answered it already if it showed up early. What are you most looking forward to during Convention 2022? A, main stage sessions and speakers. B, education sessions and learning opportunities. C, connecting and doing business on the expo floor. D, networking and social time. Or E, all of the above. I know that's a cheating answer, but we had to add that. So take a little bit to do that. We know that there is so much lined up in all of A, B, C, and D that it may be hard for you to choose. I know it would be hard for me to choose my favorite if it weren't E. And there's really everything that you would expect at a convention. The normal stuff is there, and then some other things as well. Things that members tell us they want, need, and love. And then some things that we think are your vitamins, things that we as an industry need to talk about and debate, because this is the place that we do that. So let's see what they say. So what are you most looking forward to? Still a few coming in. You're an E crowd. All right. So we also know, along with all of the things, A, B, C, D, and E, I guess A were your least favorite. So that will be an interesting thing for us
to personally.
Figure out how to do. But okay, we can take the hint. But as we think about the opportunity there, we know E loves us too. So we have some other surprises as well. As you get to the end of Tuesday, please stick around with us, because there's some really cool things that we'll be doing on stage on Tuesday at the end of the day. And we're doing things differently this year. So instead of closing on Wednesday with the main stage, we have 2 sessions tomorrow, and we have 2 on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, it's all expo all the time with education sessions and other things happening there while we're there. And of course, we want you to all get social. I'm not talking about the parties. I'm talking about the social media, of course. And right on the homepage of the app, you'll be able to see all of our social media channels as well. And shout out to Ryan Pierce. I don't know where you are, but I saw your registration video. It rocked. So please do that kind of thing all the week so that everybody can see what, if they're not here, what they're missing, and if they're here, what they might also be missing if they're not paying attention. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Denise. And I'll be back before the end of the session, and off to you.
Thank you. Let's hear it for our new Executive Director, CEO, Suzanne. Thank you, Suzanne. A lot of what you see and benefit here at convention is made possible by GBTA members and our industry volunteers who give generously of their time to this member-focused organization. That's why one of my favorite parts of convention has always been recognizing the professionals and for their passion, their purpose, and volunteerism and contributions to not just GBTA, but also to our industry. Their efforts are impactful every year and are especially needed and appreciated in the challenging year that we've had. Sunday at Convention is all about celebrating, and we're here today to celebrate them. I'd like to start by recognizing our regional award winners named earlier this year. In Europe, the Lunamore Award recognized the volunteer who supports the development of GBTA and the local European partners for the good of business travel. Congratulations to this year's award winner, Bernd Schultz, Senior Director, Business Development, SAP Concur. In Canada, the newly created Inspiration Award recognizes individuals who go above and beyond, demonstrating passion for volunteerism and a commitment to our industry. Congratulations to the 10 Canadian committee chairs and vice chairs on receiving this year's GBTA Canadian Inspiration Award. Last evening, at the Global Leadership Reception, we also recognized across the region the recipients of the Business Travel Service Awards. This award honors those who have distinguished themselves as industry leaders devoted to their companies, to GBTA, their colleagues, and the industry. They have made contributions to the business travel industry across the globe. These nominees were reviewed and selected by the regional leadership in the US, the Chapter President's Council, BTSA Committee. While for those outside the US, it would be their respective advisory boards. Congratulations to all 16 of these notable Business Travel Service Professional Award winners. Also at last night's global reception, we announced the Committee Member of the Year. Congratulations to this year's winner, Rick Wakita, Global Travel Manager, Informatic, for his service to the U.S. Government Relations Committee and a very, very successful U.S. Legislative Summit back in June. Now, we'd also like to recognize a special group of our peers who had achieved a distinction in a challenging year, earning their GBTA Certification of Corporate Travel Execution, or CCTE. So much easier to say. CCTE is a customized education offering conducted in partnership with GBTA and Cornell University Executive Education Division. After being put on hold, GBTA relaunched the CCTE program last year. For the first time, we were able to deliver this course virtually, which enabled GBTA global members from around the world to participate. We invite all of those who achieved this distinction are here today to come up on stage to be recognized for their achievement.
Carrie Anderson, Camille Arscott, Lindsay Ballroom, Tatiana Carton, Francis Chadwick, Boris Chapuas, Tammy Clark, Bonnie Darkey, Rachel Delks, Megan Dressel, Keith Erickson, Lori Echeverry, Carrie Ha, Rachel Jackson, J&T Jacobson, Beverly Jones, Sarah Kimball, Flora Corman, Ashley Krebsbach, Christine Lardizabal, Melissa Lim, Timbani Mabunda, Julie Morella, Heather Martin, Stacy McGrath, Carla McIntyre, Aniko Naj, Andrea Olszewski, Diana Payne, Carrie Pasco, Raul Perez Vasquez, Elizabeth Quinn, Himalaya Rana, Katie Romanko, Kinji Su, Dawn Spriggs Hall, Danielle Taylor, Teresa Tierney, Marcy Weir, Jim Williamson, Enos Wuso, Mary Ellen Yeager.
Congratulations to the 42 professionals who earned their CTE certification from GBTA and Cornell last year. Now, for the next part of our program, I'd like to call to the stage my dear friends and colleagues, GBTA's Vice President Mark Kasheri, and Allied Vice President, Board Treasurer Dorothy Dowling. Please come and join me.
Thank you, Denise.
I'm liking the music.
Good job.
Denise,
I love this part of our program. It's great.
That's okay, that's me, don't worry about it.
That's why we make a good team.
Denise and Dorothy, this is my favorite part of convention. It's a way to recognize those who contribute the most. I'd now like to present the award for Allied Member of the Year. This award recognizes a travel industry supplier member whose unwavering dedication and efforts have had a significant positive impact on both the association and the travel management industry. The winner this year is someone who is always there for customers, industry colleagues, partners, members, and GBTA staff. We see their influence in the can-do spirit they offer in every conversation to make this the best possible global industry and association. It gives me great pleasure. This year's Allied Member of the Year award goes to Hank Benedetti, Global Head of Corporate Sales, American Airlines. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Hank.
Oh my gosh.
Picture over here.
Go ahead.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful, Mark, and congratulations, Hank. Now, it's my pleasure to present the Direct Member of the Year award. This award recognizes a travel buyer member whose unwavering dedication and efforts have had a significantly positive impact on both the association and the travel management industry. The winner this year consistently raises their hand to meet a challenge and is always willing to support. They remain highly visibly engaged through the entirety of a volunteer project, which might be Win It Glassbreakers, the PCC Travel Summit, formerly ERM, the Convention Peer Review Council, or chapter involvement. They are respectful of others' opinions and foster an environment of teamwork. They bring their industry knowledge and incredible passion to everything they do at GBTA. This year's Direct Member of the Year award goes to Holly McTagg, Senior Member, North American Travel at Halliburton.
Dorothy, pick up.
You forgot the...
Congratulations, Holly.
I wasn't wearing tennis shoes.
I gotta get the award. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Denise. Congratulations, Holly.
Hold on.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm coming in this one. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You're
Holly.
welcome. Congratulations. Congratulations to both Hank and Holly. Thank you for your contributions to GBTA. For this next award presentation, I'd like to invite up to stage GBTA Special Advisor Dave Helfman and Avis Budget Group's Beth Knurk. Please come up on stage and join me.
Yes. So crazy right now.
Crazy.
Beautiful.
Looking spectacular.
Last year, the GBTA Board of Directors established a scholarship to be awarded annually for 3 years to the show in appreciation of Dave's leadership and service as the interim executive director in our organization. In 2020, 2021, we might have been going through a little bit of a crisis.
A little bit.
There are no strings attached, as Beth knows as last year's recipient, that it's a monetary scholarship which honors a worthy individual member in the industry for them to further their either professional or personal developments. Dave, you played a special role, and we can't thank you enough for helping us right set GBTA in a time when we really needed somebody to help us in the path forward.
My pleasure.
I am personally and forever grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Hello, everybody. Welcome to San Diego, California. Is it not great? My new hometown, just right over the bridge over here. Thrilled to have everybody here. I mean, it's spectacular. And I gotta say, I mean, don't you love the new setup? I mean, this does feel a little like Vegas. I mean, I don't know whether it's the Wayne Newton show or the Worldwide, Wrestling Federation. I don't know. Bottom line, it's great. We get to see everybody around. So I want to extend a personal welcome. It's great to see so many friends. And I did want to say, and I'm supposed to be sticking to the script, but you guys know that shit never happens. So anyway, the fact is, very proud of the GBTA staff and everybody I had the privilege and pleasure of working with, during my time. And it was pretty challenging times in 2021. So, I was very humbled and I was very grateful when the board came to me, not only about that interim gig, but to create this award. I was happy to serve GBTA when everybody needed it. It was a privilege. And I'm truly excited, however, about the opportunity to recognize the contributions of others who are also paying it forward. So here we are again, Beth, once again on the big stage.
Here we are.
Right? You were the first winner of the Hilfman Leadership Scholarship, and so deservedly so.
Thanks, Dave. And I'm also very humbled and grateful to receive this honor. And I got to tell you, just having your name associated with it makes it even that much more special. I'm super excited to be here with you and Denise to announce this year's winner.
So yes, this year's winner. I mean, there are so many extraordinary people in this industry, as we all know. Obviously, I'm a little partial on the airline industry, but there are so many amazing folks. This year's recipient is very well respected by their peers, all the partners. They volunteer their time and expertise to advance the cause of business travel, enhance the global business traveler's experience while also keeping safety, security top of mind. This person's dedication and passion for our industry is exemplary and it's infectious. That's a little scary to say these times, the infectious thing, but anyway. And their compassion and intellect are second to none. I'm thrilled about the selection.
Yeah, so please join us in welcoming to the stage this year's winner of the Dave Hilfman Leadership Scholarship.
It is the global corporate travel leader of Raytheon Technologies, Colleen Kearney. Colleen!
There she is.
Yay, Colleen!
Come on, girl.
Congratulations, all this dough.
Thank you.
You're going to Vegas, baby.
Oh, thank you.
We're taking pictures right over here.
come on,
This is going to be
come
fun.
on.
Sorry about this kind of a view for you guys back here. It's going to be dynamite.
Yes, thank you.
Right on the line, right? Are we on the line?
We can be wherever
Okay.
we want to be,
Love it.
but we just have to look at him.
Focus,
Otherwise, he'll
focus.
yell at us.
Work with me. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
See you.
Thanks, everyone. Congrats, Kyle.
Yeah. And in our last point of recognition today, as board president, it's my honor and privilege to recognize this year's GBTA 2022 President's Award winner. This award is given each year to recognize the outstanding contributions of a GBTA member who provides leadership and vision within the association and advances the travel industry, travel management. This year's winner has been a relentless champion of getting GBTA and our industry on the road to a sustainable future. They stepped up as a committee volunteer and even leading their day-to-day job, even when their day-to-day job and family life was getting busier and busier. They encouraged and helped build the foundation of what's now our first ever Sustainability Leadership Council and has supported a complete revamp of our sustainability toolkit that will help travel buyers around the world evaluate and influence the travel programs to mitigate future climate impact. This year's 2022 President's Award winner goes to Jenny Sabinu, Manager of Travel Services for Salesforce. Jenny, are you here? Ryan? Here she comes. I didn't give you any advance notice, any warning. But you could have come up in that, and that would have been great.
I would have been mortified.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here, this is yours.
Thanks.
Well, let's turn it the right direction. Yep. And we have to go up to this little thing right here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hold on. Perfect.
right.
Congratulations.
Pretty cool.
So last night when I was talking to Jenny and talking to others today, I had to bite my tongue and not say anything because this is my favorite part and it just makes me so excited. So thank you.
It's so important that GBTA, the association, the staff, as well as the board, recognizes its members and the volunteer hours, the commitment that people give. We have such a diverse group of people who are putting their best foot forward in every way to bring the industry back to what it was, back to its potential. And so I think it's the compassion, it's the passion for the industry, as well as wanting everyone who's part of this to succeed. The volunteers who take the lead on initiatives go above and beyond. It's this type of commitment within these roles, whether it's chairs or vice chairs, chapter presidents, advisory board members, that drive the activities that move the association forward.
Please welcome Senior Vice President, Global Sales for Marriott International, Tammy Ruth.
Good afternoon, GBTA. My name is Tammy Ruth, and I have the privilege of leading Marriott's Global Sales Organization. And it is incredible to be with all of you here, face to face. I mean, look at all of our small little gathering here in beautiful San Diego. We all work in an industry where we get to be part of something greater than ourselves, where we make a real difference to our own companies, to our customers, and to the communities where we choose to travel and where we choose to hold meetings and events. And an example of that would be the amazing work that GBTA is doing in the area of sustainability. And Marriott is very proud to be one of the founding partners of GBTA's sustainability program, and we even get to have one of our executives on the Sustainability Leadership Council. We're just so proud that we get to contribute to this important work that business travel sector is making to climate action and to corporate responsibility. Travel has the power to shape the world. And I'm going to leave you with a video that emphasizes the important message of the power of travel. Before I do that, I do want to thank every customer in the room, every customer for your business. And to everyone here, I hope you have a wonderful convention. Thank you.
We are not here on this planet to close our eyes to the world.
We are here to go out and experience its many wonders.
Because through our experiences, we grow and change.
And realize that we are part of something greater.
We see truth. We embrace each other and become bigger than ourselves.
Travel has the power to shape our world.
Because travel makes us whole again.
With 30 hotel brands and endless experiences, where can we take you?
Please welcome our keynote speaker, National Geographic photographer, DeWitt Jones.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm looking out in the audience, and there's some of you who are saying, tell me again why a photographer was chosen to open this convention. Look, the only reason I'm here is to share with you the best that I've learned in my life. And when I say that, I don't mean as a picture taker. I mean as a creator of visions. That's what I'd like to talk about tonight. And what I'd like to do, actually, if you'll join me, if you'll help me, is over the next little while to create an extraordinary vision. Right here, right now. Extraordinary visions. As a photographer for National Geographic, I created a lot of them. How did we do it? I can sum it up in 4 words: vision, passion, purpose, and creativity. I want to talk to you about all 4 of those this evening and how they all go together to make something truly superlative. I'll show you some of my images, but the visions that I'm really interested in exploring are not photographic. They're the visions we have for our lives, both personally and professionally, and how extraordinary they can be. So how do you do that? How do you start to create an extraordinary vision for your life? When I look back at my life, I realize that mine started very, very early. I grew up in Chicago. I had a dad that used to tell me stories. My father told me lots and lots of stories, and all of my dad's stories had lessons. I began to hate stories with lessons. Most of those lessons, right over my head, but occasionally, much to his delight, one of them would stick. And I want to begin with a story. It's an old story. Probably some of you know it, but I tell it because it was a story that really changed my life, changed the way I looked at things. He told me a story about 2 men laboring in a courtyard in medieval Italy. And they sat, in the heat of the noonday sun, drenched in sweat, chipping at blocks of marble. One man's face downcast, shoulders bent, muscles straining, and a priest crossing the courtyard stopped beside him, looked down, and said, "What are you doing, my son?" And without looking up, the man answered, "I am chipping stone." The priest turned to the other man. His shoulders too were bent, his muscles strained, but his face, God, his face was a smile and his eyes just full of that joyful effort of passion. What are you doing? I am building a cathedral. I am building a cathedral. That story got to me. Because I kept thinking, these two guys are looking at exactly the same thing, and one is a stone chipper, and the other is a cathedral builder, and the only difference was vision. I knew which one I wanted to be. No idea how to do that. I was a young man, you know, a kid. Yeah, I still held that maxim, I won't believe it until I see it. We all start out like that. We all start out needing those mentors, those teachers, those seminal experiences in our lives that show us what's possible. The National Geographic was one of those for me. Maybe it was for many of you. You know, I took this magazine long before, I didn't take it, my family took it, long before I was even born. When I got to be old enough to read, I'd grab it. When it came into the house, I'd take it upstairs, I'd read it at night, you know. My dad would say, turn out the light, then we'd go to bed. I'd turn the light back on. I'd get a flashlight, you know. I'd do whatever it took to stay up and stare at the pages of this little yellow book. Pages that showed me the possibilities the world had to offer. I never thought I'd work for them. I never thought I'd shoot for them. But they began to experience and change my life long before I even knew I was a photographer. Because they had a wonderful vision. So simple, yet so profound. What they charged me with, every time they sent me out, was to celebrate what was right with the world, rather than wallow in what was wrong with it. That's why... Come on, that's why we keep these silly yellow magazines. It's a national sacrilege to throw away a geographic, you know that. If all the geographics in the country disappeared at one time, half the houses would fall in on themselves, you know, because they're supported by big yellow columns in the basement. Because they celebrate what's right with the world. So I'd look at these pictures with that vision, and I'd fall in love. I'd fall in love with the world. And I'd feel what you feel whenever you fall in love. I'd feel passion, that energy that rises up from within. Great visions do that. They release passion. That energy just seems encoiled inside them. I'd look at those pictures with that vision and that energy, and in that moment, I'd transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. That's the moment of creativity. To me, that's really all creativity is, that moment when we look at the ordinary, but what we see is extraordinary. And we do that when we fall in love with ourselves, with our visions, with our spouse, with our family, with our clients, with our customers, with our community, with our country, with the world. At that moment, we stop being stone chippers and start to become cathedral builders and begin to focus and build an incredible vision for our lives. I had another experience when I was a freshman at Dartmouth College. Another experience that showed me great vision and passion. And I remember, you know, the whole class gathering together to hear a grand old man say his poetry. And it was the poet Robert Frost, just the year before he died. 84 years old. He stood there, he held us for 2 hours reading his poetry. What passion, what vision. And then he read a poem called Two Tramps in Mud Time. He read words I'll never forget. My object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation, as my two eyes make one in sight. Only when love and need are one, and the work is play for mortal stakes, is the deed ever really done for heaven and the future's sake. My object in living is to unite my avocation and my vocation. My vocation, what I had to do, what they paid me to do. My avocation, what I couldn't help but do, what I love to do, as my two eyes make one in sight. Oh, that night, Frost took me out of the ordinary, showed me the extraordinary, and made me feel it. That's how I wanted to live, to fall in love with what I do. So I'd had visionary teachers and mentors. I'd been shown passion and possibility, but as we all know, we can't just live it through others, you gotta make it your own. And I think the first time that happened to me is when I got to be a senior at Dartmouth. I'd been a drama major. I had no idea how I could ever make my living as a dramatist. I did not want to go to New York and starve. So being a smart young kid, I applied and I was accepted into Harvard Business School. My father said, thank God, you know. Kid's gonna be off the dole, it's all gonna work, and probably would have worked out fine. But spring term of my senior year, a bunch of us guys got together, and we just began to vision, to dream, to imagine what we would do after college if we could do anything we wanted. And the hour got later, and the visions got grander, and sometime after midnight, we came up with this idea of kayaking 1,100 miles up the coast of Japan. Seemed like a hell of an idea at the time, you know? And I said, I'll make a movie of it. I never made a movie before in my life. But I got up the next morning with my first real vision and the passion that vision brought with it. And so I withdrew my acceptance to Harvard and applied out to UCLA Film School to learn how to make movies. My father said, we've lost Tim. I went out to LA, I got into what he called the land of nuts and flakes. I got into the school. I got with some of the second-year graduate students because they knew something about making movies. I sure didn't. And together we composed this great letter to the National Geographic Society about this hot young filmmaker from Hollywood, moi, who was going to make this great movie for him. Sent it off, lo and behold, I get a letter back from the Geographic. Said, dear Mr. Jones, we'd like to have you come to Hollywood and to come to Washington, and when you do, bring some samples of your work. Nothing, nothing. So in a week and a half, I made a 15-minute documentary on Alvera Street, little Mexican street up here in LA. Picked it up from a lab on a Monday morning, got on a plane, flew to Washington, walked into a Tuesday meeting, said, this is just a little something I picked off the shelf, right? It was still wet, you know. And they looked at it. It was a terrible little film, but it was mine. And they finally said, okay, we'll tell you what we'll do. We'll send along our Hollywood film crews to follow you guys up the coast. You take the trip, we'll make the movie. 23 years old, I stood up in the meeting, I said, no way. I said, if I don't make the film, it doesn't get made. And they said, it doesn't get made, right? So I came back to my dorm room at UCLA, and I am bummed, man. You know, I had the vision, I had the passion, I could see that movie. And I was scared, too. I'd just gotten whomped in that meeting. And then I thought, what's the fear, DeWitt? Do you really think they're going to drag you out behind the Geographic and break your thumbs if you ask twice? So I sat down and I wrote Mel Payne, the president of the Society, a letter. Poured out my heart to him. Poured out my vision to him about why I ought to make that movie. And he read that letter and he caught that vision. Because 3 weeks later, he called the head of the television department and said, give the kid the money and let him go. And there I was, having never made a major film before in my life, about to make my first for National Geographic. Went to Japan, paddled up the coast. I made the film. It was shown on TV in this country. It was syndicated in Europe. It was on the BBC, and whoa, I was a filmmaker. And I learned something incredibly important from that. I didn't really have the words to it till years later when I saw the movie Dead Poets Society. You've all seen it. Stars Robin Williams. You know, he plays an English teacher. One day he walks into his class, leaps up on his desk, raises his hand and yells, Carpe diem. Seize the day. Seize the day. That's what that was all about. I learned if you pushed hard enough on life, it connected and pushed back. I learned that I could dream, you know, the wildest dreams imaginable and at least have a chance of manifesting them into reality. And I learned it at a very deep level at a very young age. And that film was the beginning of what evolved into a 20-year career shooting first movies and then stills for the Geographic. Out there now, living that vision, celebrating what was right with the world. Except now it wasn't a question of I won't believe it till I see it. Now it was, I'll see it because I believe it. I'll see it because I believe it, man. And I believed it, and I'd see it in everything. They'd send me out to places I'd never been. I believed there would be beautiful landscapes to photograph. They'd appear. I believe those landscapes would be full of wonderful people. They'd be there. Celebrating what's right with the world. It was a vision that had purpose and passion for everybody in the organization. Do you have a vision like that? Not just for the company you work for yourself. For yourself, a vision that you could distill down into 6 words, your own private bumper sticker, a vision that every morning when you got up and said those 6 words, you said, yes. Yes, that's why you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Because when the vision is clear, when the vision is just juicy enough, then passion and creativity are there as well. And when passion and creativity are there, discipline and commitment are non-issues. I know that. I know that because I lived it. I lived it. All of a sudden, I wasn't looking at those pictures on the printed page. I was there. I was there, and what an incredible place there was. From the tallest mountains to rivers drenched in sunlight to waterfalls and rainbows. I kept thinking of the words of the poet Robinson Jeffers, who wrote, "Is it not by his high superfluousness that we know our God? Is it not by his high superfluousness that we know our God? For to meet a need is natural, animal, mineral, but to throw rainbows over the rain or hide them in seashells." Everywhere I looked, there would be amazing beauty for me to photograph. And in those landscapes were lessons that would change my life. The conservationist John Muir once wrote, "When we try and pick out any one thing by itself, we'll find it hitched to everything else in the universe." And the more I photographed, the more nature showed me that connection and beauty graced by light. And in the geographic's view, man was not something separate from this. Humanity was not something separate from this, just as magical, just as unique as anything else on the planet. And the more I just went out and celebrated the best in humankind, the more I could see it. I could see it in the faces of those at work, or the body language of those at play, those in their youth or in their age. Can you believe this guy? I thought this was going to be a good picture before he smiled, right? I could see it. I could see that light that shines not on us, but from within us. From within us, when we have the courage to let it out. It was the same light I'd seen in nature that didn't seem to have to trust to expose itself, but just graced us every day with the delicacy of a flower or the light of a breaking storm. And it was my job to celebrate it the very best we had to offer. And the more I believed it, the more I would see it. Everywhere I looked, the banquet was laid. And yet, the more I shot for the geographic, the more I found this strange tension growing up between the worldview of the geographic and the worldview that I'd been raised in since I was a kid. I mean, you all know it. The law of the jungle, eat or be eaten, my win is your loss, second place is the first loser. Oh, God, I saw that on a t-shirt the other day. That is a very depressing way to look at life. Now, maybe it's how we had to look at it when we dragged ourselves to the mouth of our cave and ran into a saber-toothed tiger, but come on. Everybody in this room is playing life at a lot higher level than that. And yet when we get scared or fearful, that's the paradigm that rises up. But that's not what nature was showing me. Nature was showing me incredible beauty and possibility, standing just beyond the rat race, saying, hello, hello. All was there if I was open enough to see it. I mean, come on, Mother Nature never stood in front of a forest and said, there is one great photograph hidden here. One photographer will find it, and the rest of you will be hopeless losers, Nature said, how many rolls you got to wit? Bring it on. Bring it on. I'll fill it up. I'll fill it up with beauty and possibility beyond your wildest imaginings, right down to my tiniest seed. And that was just a much more elegant philosophy, a much more compassionate way of looking at the universe. And at some point, I just decided to embrace it. I just decided that if I had a choice between a world based on scarcity and fear and one based on possibility, then man, I was choosing possibility. And that no matter how dry and desolate, no matter how bleak and devoid of possibilities the situation might seem, that I would just believe that if I could fall in love with it, in this case, just by dropping down into that slot canyon and looking back the other way, I could find a perspective that would transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Nature was sharing with me one of her most important lessons. Time and again, she would show me that there's more than one right answer. There's more than one right answer. It seems so simple, but I tell you, that is the key to creativity. There are 1,000 ways to come at any challenge, to find that extraordinary view, and I know it so easily from my photography, but sometimes it's just so hard to bring over the rest of my life. They sent me up to a little town called Smith River. They raise about 80% of the Easter lilies in the country around that village, and that's the story I had to tell. And I've got a perspective where I got picked lilies and unpicked lilies, and the boy picking them, and good body language as he puts them in the box, a little bit of the region's architecture and the weather. One right answer. Pretty good one. But as a photographer, I'd never think of stopping there. I took this picture immediately, I grabbed another lens, walked over a couple rows, knelt down, and found another right answer. Same parameters of the problem, now seen from a totally different point of view. And my favorite right answer that day was this one. This is an advanced levitation technique that I learned along the way. Somebody had a chopper in the fields, I get a ride, get up a couple hundred feet, look down, see the extraordinary and the ordinary. 3 right answers. So many things begin to change when you come at the world from that perspective of more than one right answer. I mean, first of all, you don't stop at the initial right answer. Come on, that's just doing your job. You wouldn't be here in this convention tonight if you stopped at the first right answer. But the kick is that when you really believe it, then as you press out looking for the next right answer, which you're asked to do every day, you do so not in terror, but comfortably, knowing it's going to be there for you. And you really do begin to embrace change rather than fear it. You really do hit the day with a sense of possibility, not paralysis. And you get more and more comfortable with reframing an obstacle into an opportunity. They sent me up to the Selkirk Mountains of British Columbia. Beautiful area. I'm wandering around, I find a field of dandelions. I should have been ecstatic, but I was not in a seize the day kind of mood. And instead of grabbing my cameras and running into that field, I said, I don't know, the light's not quite right, I don't like it, tomorrow maybe, I'll come back tomorrow. I didn't engage. We all know what happens when you don't engage. Tomorrow turns into the next day turns into the next week, and by the time I got back to that field, no more dandelions. I had puffballs, you know. I wanted dandelions, I had puffballs, and I'm just about to leave when this little voice in my head says, DeWitt, what's right with this situation? What's here to celebrate? You wanted dandelions. You got puffballs. 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 Pretty soon I'm down on the ground with the puffballs. I'm rolling around with the puffballs. I'm on top of the puffballs. I'm underneath the puffballs. And all of a sudden, whoa. Whoa. That extraordinary view. It always seemed to be there if I was open enough to see it. So when we come at the world from that perspective of more than one right answer, not only do we learn to frame obstacles into opportunities, we also begin to lose our fear of mistakes or setbacks. This is the Butter and Eggs Day up in Petaluma, California. I lived in Petaluma for 9 years, and I raised my kids there, and every spring they'd have this parade. And I'd get out there, and one year I was photographing, I saw this veteran handing flags to the kids beside the road. And I thought, wow, great shot. You know, I'm a photographer, I'm gonna grab this. So I ran over there, and I missed it. Nobody's given anything to anybody in this shot. It's a mistake. It's a setback. But come on, we don't learn without mistakes and setbacks. When I worked for the Geographic, the average article was shot in 400 rolls of film. That's over 14,000 images to get the 30 that go in the story. And now with digital, it's 2 to 3 times that. I'm not thinking about making mistakes. I'm looking for the next right answer. Did I get it? No, I got E.T.'s hand over there on the right, you know? You know, amateur photographers will come up to me and they'll say, DeWitt, how many good ones do you get in an 8 gig card? I turn it back to them. I say, I'm sorry, that's the amateur question. That's the question based on fear of making mistakes. The professional question is, did you get it? Did you get it? I mean, we all know when those right answers come into focus, they just go, you know, and you got it. But it doesn't happen unless you're willing to press out on the edge of your own comfortable envelope to take the risk to look for that next right answer. Come on, it is not trespassing to go beyond your own boundaries. How many good ones do you get in a roll of 36? How many good ones do you get in an 8 gig card? No, no, no. Did you get it? So how do we answer that question yes every time? When I'd take off after an extraordinary vision, there were 4 steps that I'd try and go through. The first one was to train my technique. Train my technique, because vision without technique is blind. It's fine to have a lovely image, but if you don't have the technique and technology to manifest into reality, you have nothing. So I'd spend days, weeks, months with my technique, f-stops and shutter speeds and strobes, so that when nature did open a window of opportunity, I wasn't worried about what lens was on my camera. I was there ready to capture it. I call this one midlife rebirth. So first I want to train my technique. And then I want to put myself in the place of most potential. If nature's going to open up multiple windows of opportunity, where do I have the best chance of finding them? So I was doing a book on Lake Powell, and I'm flying back in from taking some morning aerials, and I looked down on what I thought was an uninhabited and uninhabitable part of the lake. And down there I could see a car and a road. I didn't even know anybody could get out there. And yet seeing it, I knew it was possible. So I came back to my campsite, I checked the maps, that point was in the perfect direction. Checked another book to see when the day was I wanted to be there, rented a 4-wheel drive, stuffed it with provisions, bumped all the way out to that overlook. But boy, I was there in the place of most potential the night the full moon rose over the lake. And when you're there in the place of most potential with your technique down, man, those right answers just keep coming. Train your technique. Put yourself in the place of most potential. And then the third step, it seems like the easiest, but I really think it's the hardest, and that's to just open to possibilities. Possibilities you never dreamed of. So I'm photographing a little story on Marine World, and I'd photographed the whales and the dolphins and the water skiers and the tigers. I had it, I'm going back to the car, and then just out of my peripheral vision, I saw this thing called a dancing fountain. I mean, you've all seen them. The water comes out of one, goes in a parabola, goes into the next one, goes into the next one. It looks like a big worm going across the horizon, and this kid has his hand on the source. And he's waiting, and so am I, and he's ready, and so am I, and I know what that next right answer is going to be, and man, I nailed it. But I'm not putting on the brakes. I'm not shutting down. I'm keeping looking for that next right answer, because if I didn't do that, I never would have seen this one. You know, just being open to possibilities you've never dreamed of. When the great photographer Minor White would go out to photograph, he would never say, "What will I take today?" Rather, he would ask, "What will I be given today?" And I would add, "Will I be open enough to recognize it?" Train your technique. Put yourself in the place of most potential. Open to possibilities. And then finally, focus your vision by celebrating what's right in the situation. Live that vision of the Geographic. So no matter how strange a situation I will walk into, the first thing I'm going to say is, what's here to celebrate? What am I falling in love with? Well, in this case, it's easy because it happens to be my daughter, right? Most dads would help their daughter in this situation. You know, Dad, I'm turning blue. Don't worry, I got color film. You know, But it didn't matter. Whenever I could get a lock on what was right with the situation, then I could use all of my technique and technology to enhance that and get rid of everything else. Instead of starting, as we so often do, by griping about what's wrong with the situation, what's right with it? Because that connects us to our passion. That emancipates the energy. By celebrating what's right, we find the energy to fix what's wrong. As Michelangelo said, I saw an angel in the stone and carved to set it free. I saw an angel in the stone and carved to set it free. So that just became the way I would shoot. They'd send me out to amazing places like Rose Spit at the top of Graham Island in British Columbia. And on that magical piece of real estate, the Haida Indians believed that mankind first came into existence when Raven opened up a clamshell and let him out. And I was lucky enough to be there one evening with two Haida braves dancing on the beach. One of the first shots, the drummer in the background, the boy with the paddle dancing in the foreground. And I'm asking myself, what's here to celebrate? What am I falling in love with? And at that moment, it was just the boy's face, so I zoomed in on that. And I'm loving this shot. But even as I'm taking it, this little voice in my head says, do it, you're too close. You've forgotten who this boy is or where he is. It's just a shot of a child now. It's no longer a shot of a Haida. And so even though this was a really nice right answer, quickly, easily, comfortably, I let it go. Zoomed back a little bit, picked up the paddle. Much better photograph. In fact, the Geographic agreed and ran it as the opening spread in the article. And what I began to see was that, you know, it's not about finding the right answer. It's not even about finding another right answer. What life is about is continually finding the next right answer. Continually finding the next right answer, twisting that focus ring of our lives back and forth, keeping that extraordinary vision in focus. And the more I could do that, both in my photography and in my life, the more I would find that the difference between a good frame and a really great frame was usually measured in millimeters, not miles. That close all the time. Good frame, a morning glory on the beach in Maui, 10 inches away. Great frame, great frame. Good frame, a cowboy in Bryce Canyon, believe it or not, named Binky. Binky, God. I'm taking Binky's picture and I'm loving it. But even as I'm taking it, I see another cowboy walk out of the barn behind him. And as he crossed the threshold of the door, this beautiful shaft of light touched his face. And so as he moved on, I just backed Binky up about 30 feet. Great frame, great frame. Good frame. The Golden Gate Bridge at sunset with the new moon rising, man, how does it get any better? 15 minutes later, great frame, great frame. When we believe it, we'll see it. So I'm looking out in the audience and I'm seeing some heads going up and down. You folks know some of these techniques. God, you wouldn't be here if you didn't. So my question is, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? How do we come back from a couple of really trying years in our industry? How do we take it to the next level? Well, I'm thinking a lot about that in my own life. And I realized that taking it to the next level has gone on for a long time for me, as I'm sure it has for you. And I think back all the way to the beginning, when I first had the courage to stick my head out there and begin it all, you know? And I had goals and I had aspirations and I was working, I was flapping. There was a lot of flapping going on in the beginning, you know, competing with all the others who were out there flapping right next to me. But I got better at what I did. And I got up on the step and it began to clear out a little bit and there weren't so many flappers. And yet no matter how good I got, it always seemed that there were others way, way up above me. So high I could hardly see them and they weren't even moving their wings. How do you get to that level in life? Well, I'm lucky enough to live on the island of Molokai between Maui and Oahu and the Hawaiian chain. Has the largest sea cliffs in the world, and they fall 3,000 feet down into the ocean. My house is about a mile from those cliffs, and I spend a lot of time up there. Not too long ago, I was up there walking along the cliffs, about 5 feet from the edge, no guardrails or anything in Molokai. And I sat down, and I'm just looking out over the Pacific, and all of a sudden, from below me, a frigate bird with an 8-foot wingspan, hanging on the air 5 feet from my face, just looking me right in the eyes. And then it was carried up in the wind. And it was replaced by another and another and another until 7 of them had graced my sight. And they all kept circling up higher and higher, so high I could hardly see them. And then finally one of them just dipped their wings, and the others all followed suit, and they all turned and glided 8 miles across the channel to the island of Maui. And I was left alone looking out over the ocean. And I thought, whoa, that was big. What does it mean? And I could almost hear Mother Nature whisper in my ear, and she seemed to be saying, DeWitt, quit flapping and ride your thermals. Quit flapping and ride your thermals. That was a little metaphoric even for Mother Nature, but okay. All right, I'll go with it. Maybe in my own life it was time for another right answer, another reframe. So where do those thermals exist, those winds to take me higher? Man, I was standing there on the edge. I had the guts to go to that edge and even beyond it in my photography, but I had a feeling that wasn't the edge that nature was trying to teach me about. I had a feeling that if I was going to get to the next level in my own life, it was not the external edges that I'd have to press. It was the internal ones as well. To know myself as well as I knew my craft. Because in each of our lives, there is an edge between success and significance. An edge where if we're going to take it higher, we have to work not just what we do, but on who we are. Not just to be the best in the world, but to be the best for the world. And it's with that realization that those thermals begin to rise. So I'm wandering around Molokai thinking, test my inner edges. How do I do that? I thought, well, maybe I ought to learn to meditate. I lived in California for 17 years. De facto, I should be a good meditator, right? I'm a terrible meditator. Every time I try and meditate, there's a fly in the room, There's something up my nose. My mind endlessly repeats the theme from the Beverly Hillbillies. It's a disaster. So I took a course. I took a course in meditation, and I'm seated in the back of the class working at it as hard as I can. And finally the teacher came up and she said, "You don't do this very well, do you?" I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Well, maybe what you need is the one breath meditation." I said, "The what?" She said, "The one breath meditation." She said, "Everything you need to know about life is in one breath." I said, "Tell me." She said, "You take it all in and you give it all back. You take it all in and you give it all back. You take it all in. You take the very best that life has and take it all in. And then you turn around and take the very best that you have and publish it in your life. You give it all back without any regard to whether it's received or not. As simple, as easy as breathing. It's as if when God created us, he was afraid we wouldn't remember the meaning of life, so he just encoded it into the smooth muscle of our lungs so that every time we'd take a breath, we'd get it. Take it all in and give it all back. Can I do that? No, come on, I'm human. But boy, that little mantra makes each breath a little different. And then occasionally we all meet those people who do live it as easy as breathing, and they serve as touchstones to show us it's possible. I met such a person on the Isle of Harris in the Outer Hebrides in Scotland. Her name was Marion Campbell. She was the finest weaver in all of Scotland. She'd been cited by the Queen. She was a national treasure, and she lived in the tiny town of Plockerpool. And I found her house, came and knocked on her door. She came out, lovely woman, and I was so excited and ebullient, and I said, "Hi, I'm from National Geographic, and I want to take your picture." And she raised her hand. And she said, "Wait, my brother is very sick upstairs. He may be dying, and I'm taking care of him." And I felt so stupid. I hadn't called, I hadn't checked. I said, "I'm sorry, Marion, we don't have to do this." I began to back away, and she raised her hand again. And she said, "Give me an hour and I'll be ready." And she closed the door. And I wandered around that little village thinking about the incredible presence of this woman. Why, when her brother was dying, would she spend time with me? And then I heard her hand shuttle being thrown across her loom, and I found her in her weaving shed, lit only by the light of the window. And she showed me the yarn that she'd spun by hand. And she told me how she went into the fields and literally scraped the lichens off the rocks to make her dyes. And I was still nervous. I took some portraits. I said, "Fine, Marion, I got it." I started to leave, and again, she stopped me. And she took me back to her house, and she put out biscuits, and she'd made tea, and she wouldn't eat till I had eaten. And then she took me into her living room, and she stoked the peat fire. We sat there in the window seat talking. And I was so struck by the presence of this woman, by just her congruency. I felt like I was seated with a great sage, a veritable Yoda, and at any minute she was just going to reveal to me the meaning of the universe. And finally I said, "Marion, what do you think about when you weave?" And she said, "I wonder if I'll run out of thread." It wasn't exactly what I thought I'd hear, you know? And then she must have seen my consternation, because she looked at me just like that, and she looked me in the eye and she said, "When I weave, I weave." And in my own mind, I heard, "When I weave, I weave. When I photograph, I photograph. When I serve, I serve. When I take it all in, I take it all in. When I give it all back, I give it all back." God, what a moment. She was a thermal rider. Not just the best in the world, but the best for the world. And she made it look so easy. She never even moved her wings. Could I do that? Could we do that? Find a new balance in our lives between what we do and who we are? A balance that would allow us to save all our intensity and focus and passion, and yet at the same time never lose sight of those things that were really important in life. A balance that would allow us to take it all in till we were full to overflowing, and then with gratitude and with grace to give it all back. To be like the sunset, the banquet that nature sets before us every evening. I know that whenever I can do that, wonderful things happen in my life. A couple years later, I was back in Scotland, this time not for the Geographic, but on a big advertising shoot for Dewar's Scotch. And they asked me to photograph Highland Games, these giant men throwing these weights around. And I couldn't get my eye off the guy over there on the right with a coat on. He was the judge. He was bigger than all the rest of them, and every once in a while, when they do a particularly good throw, his eyes would kind of mist up. He'd get this little smile on his face. And we took some wonderful ads, but my intuition just screaming at me to meet this guy. So when it was over, I went to him and I said, "You know, you're bigger than all the rest of these guys. Have you done this before?" And he said, Aye, laddie, aye. I was the champion of Scotland for many years." I said, "Well, what do you do now?" He said, "Well, I'm a farmer. I was a farmer then, I'm still a farmer now." I said, "Can I come and visit you?" He said, "Well, I guess you could." So I dragged my whole crew down there the next day, and big boy, you know. He came out from behind the barn in these wonderful overalls. We found a weight he hadn't thrown in years. We took him into his front field, and talk about being your own banquet. He was just lost in the very best he had to give. And so was I. I'd forgotten that I was shooting for Dewar's or being paid. I was just falling in love through the lens. And the art director took my pictures and turned them into this ad that said, "For 20 years, Henry Gray won the cheers of the crowd in Scotland's Highland Games, And even now he likes to get out and throw his weight around in the privacy of his own backyard. And this ad won all kinds of awards. But I didn't care. I got to meet Henry. I got paid off right there that day in that field. And a couple years later, I was back in Scotland. I passed the town that Henry lived in, so I went over to his house, and he showed me how he'd framed up the ad that I'd sent him. And then he and his wife came out and posed for pictures in front of the house. And then he said, "Come here, laddie, I want to show you something." And he brought me over and he turned that picture around. And it was covered with signatures. And I said, "Henry, what's this?" And he said, "Well, laddie, you ran that ad all over the world. And all of my relations in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and the US, they all saw it and they all called. And they said, 'Is that you?' And I said, 'Aye, it's me.' And they said, 'Well, we think we better come back and check on you.' And so because of that ad, they had the first Grey Clan reunion in more than 200 years. You know, we never know. We never know where it's going to go. When we publish it in our life, when we give it all back, we just have to do it and believe. Because we are all of us, on the same great journey. A journey down a river we call life. And on that journey, we are each our own boatman. And if we're going to run this river well, we must first know our own boat, know everything it will and won't do, make an honest assessment of its strengths and its weaknesses, and then hone our technique until that boat is just an extension of ourselves. We must spend time not only with our outerness, but with our inner values as well, to align those vision and those values, because the way won't always be easy. And great possibility is always fraught with turbulence. We must learn to ride the waves of change, not to shrink from them, but to be right there on our edge, totally conscious. If we're going to run this river well, we must be absolutely present. We must learn to trust in ourselves, to watch others run the river, to learn from them, but not to copy, because the river is always changing, and what made one run brilliant may make the next a disaster. But if we can keep the vision clear, if we can live in principle every moment of the journey, then we can use the power of that river to take us where we want to go, to send us through the chaos, to keep us from disaster, so that we can celebrate with gratitude and with grace all that we've been given, to take it all in and give it all back. It's your boat. It's your river. You're on it every day. So will we do it? Will we do it? Will we live with purpose and passion and vision and values? Will we open our eyes to an extraordinary vision? Will we stand on our own edge and ride those thermals to heights we've never dreamed of? Seize the day, my friends. Seize the day. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, dear.
Amazing.